So, Jim, you would think that I would have learned over time, but I kept doing the same thing over and over again when I was in unmanaged chronic pain, didn't I?
You did. You were really good at doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah, yeah. I'm surprised that I just never did learn my lesson. But so, what was it that I did, Jim?
Well, we talked last time that you were going to talk about the roller coaster, which is a great metaphor for what you did over and the ride you were on over and over and over because yeah, you were really good at it. But that makes sense. I mean, for anyone listening into our conversation, um, uh, that is struggling with chronic pain or family or friend of someone in chronic pain, it's really easy. We talked last time about our brain. Our brain is a short term thinker. And so it's really easy to be stuck in these patterns because our brain thinks it's helpful. It doesn't know long term that it's not. So it keeps on trying the same thing over and over. And that was Debbie when she was ruled by her short term thinking brain, right?
That's right. Yes. So the roller coaster for me was that I would have a good day, better, feeling better. And so I would have a lot to catch up on because it was a good day and I hadn't felt up to doing things for a while. So I would start working and getting things done. And I would just keep on. And you would say, Debbie, don't you need to rest or stop for a little bit? And I would say,
Take a break, maybe.
that's right. And I would say, oh no, I'm feeling fine. I'm doing good. Have less pain today, so I've got a lot to catch up on. And so I would just keep going.
And we
And
talked last week
yeah,
about shame.
right.
That would play into it too, wouldn't it? Tell us about that.
Yes. Part of the reason that I would continue working and trying to catch up is the shame of I hadn't been able to get things done around the house, and other people were having to help out, my kids, you, and even some friends and family. So, yeah, the shame that I had not been able to keep up would play into that. And I would just feel like, okay, I've got to keep moving here. I've got to keep working and maybe a little bit of pain would show up, but hey, it's manageable. That's okay. I can do it. I can push through and get this done. And so I would continue to work until the job was done. And usually at that point, that was also around the time that my pain would be out of control. And
Out
so,
of control. So the
yeah,
pain would be louder than the guilt and shame and sense of inadequacy because you couldn't get it all done earlier in the week because you were resting.
yeah,
And so you just went and went and went and worked and worked and worked and worked and worked
yes, until I dropped.
till you dropped.
That's
So
right.
now we got this, we do have the roller coaster. So tell us where this part of the adventure that the ride that Debbie was on, where are we on the roller coaster?
Right. Okay. So I would have less pain. And so I would work, 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 work until I had pushed myself to the limits. And
Yep, you're
then guess,
way up at the top.
that's right. And then guess what would happen? And everybody who's listening who has had chronic pain knows exactly what I'm talking about. High pain, go all the way down to I am resting. So now I'm at the bottom of the roller coaster and I am having to rest extra because I'm in so much pain. So my typical was 2.5 to 3 days. That's how long I had overdone it and therefore rested, maintained, the trying to get trying to get my levels back to where I could move again without some pain, without too much pain.
Uh, yeah, again, going back to um, last week's video, it's a pain cycle, right? You
Yeah,
overdid it, so then you were forced to rest,
that's right.
and the more you rested, the weaker and sorer you got. And the more guilt and shame and inadequacy built up,
That's right.
and then rinse and
And
repeat.
then
Let's
guess, that's right.
back
Guess
up to
what
the top of
happened?
the roller.
That's right. Guess what happened next? Got 3 days worth of housework and chores that I've not been able to take care of. And therefore, here I go again. Oh,
Yep.
I'm feeling better today. Have less pain. It's time to get a lot done. And
It's
I
time
would,
to
like you
overdo
said,
it.
yep. So rinse and repeat. Here I go again. Yeah. And
Yes.
you would think that I would learn, but I felt the need to get it done, right? So I want to get it finished while I still feel good.
And you're
But
going to
that
do and
was
do and
not
do and
working.
do. That's right. What would stop you again?
Pain would stop me.
Pain would stop you.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. That's right. Or I would wait till the job was finished. I was so caught up in what I was doing with the job that I didn't necessarily notice the pain until I finished. And then all of a sudden, my brain says, "Oh my goodness, you have really pushed yourself too far." And then I would be back to that cycle again. Yep.
What have you
So,
learned since then, Debbie Murphy?
well, it took me a long time, unfortunately, to learn that lesson. And I don't know why, but it was something that I repeated over and over again throughout that 21 years. Yeah. And finally, I was in a class on chronic pain that I was attending, and it mentioned the idea of pacing. And I thought,
The
okay,
idea
well,
of
I'm not
what?
of pacing. Yes,
Pacing. What
yes,
a what a
pacing
what a
myself.
foreign idea.
I know, I know. What? That's possible? So yeah, there's some different types of pacing. Um, One is the kind that I was actually doing, which is called pain-based pacing, and that's basically
Pain-based pacing. Yes, go ahead.
that's right. So that's the kind of pacing that I was actually doing, and that was okay. I'll just keep moving until my pain stops me. So
Ooh,
that is
and
one
I
kind of
bet
pacing.
it is one kind of pacing. In fact, wouldn't you say it's probably the most common type of pacing because it's natural? Just like, again, going back to last week's video,
Yeah,
so much of our chronic pain cycle is natural. It's what our brain, short-term thinking brain, says, "Hey, I want to get out of this discomfort. I want to get out of pain. I want to get into joy or pleasure or something." And I don't really care nor even am aware. Our brain often is not aware of the long-term consequences of our short-term actions.
that's right. Yes. So it's something that's normal. It's maybe not normal for somebody to do it as many years as I did before they learned,
You're
but
just exceptional.
possibly.
You're just
That's right.
exceptional.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. Um, but okay, so the other type of pacing is time-based pacing. Okay. And this is where we either set a timer or we just figure out how long we're going to work on a project. Or let's say I'm gonna work until I finish this particular piece of it, and then I'm gonna take a break.
So, regarding uh, time-based pacing,
Mhm.
what's the difference between time-based pacing and pain-based pacing?
Well, in the time-based pacing, from what I learned, I am not pushing my body every time to that level of pain where it stops me for days, or for the people who are watching, stops you for, longer than you would like for it to. When we make sure we take those regular breaks, that keeps our brain from learning, okay, the only thing that's going to stop you here is when you get to that point where um, the pain is so high that you drop. So it's very hard. I know no matter how badly I wanted to stop, I just felt like this pressure. I have to get these things done. So it's very, very difficult, but it's so helpful when you finally decide I'm going to force myself to take those breaks throughout the day. I'm going to figure out either a time, or after I finish this little project, I'm going to rest. Because at the end of the day, or at the end of 3 days, if you take my pattern, you have accomplished about the same amount that you would have, even if it takes you a little longer to get projects done because you're resting in the middle. You're still going to get them done, but without calling your pain out over and over and over. And the problem, Jim, that I have found with that is that we are teaching our brain, just like you're learning a habit, our brain is learning that habit of, oh, okay, I need to be putting out that pain signal regularly.
The problem with that, with pain based pacing, is not only are you having to rest for several days, but you're doing something really worse, right? Really critical. You're in the pattern of training your brain to put out enough pain to stop you from overdoing it.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And just like learning any habit, our brains learn that it needs to put out that regular pain signal because over and over and over and over again, you've taught it that, just like any other habit that you've kind of got your brain. You don't have to think about certain things because you know to do those because your brain has gotten into that habit. And unfortunately, despite how much damage you may have as far as a condition or so forth, you can still make things worse by training your brain that it regularly needs to put out that pain signal.
So you're saying we can have, by changing things, and I guess this goes back to pieces of the puzzle, which is one of our themes on this channel all the time, pieces of the puzzle. I guess what you're saying is that if by changing my pacing pattern from pain-based pacing to time-based pacing, and my time-based is shorter than where I used to be when the pain would stop me, we can do a couple things. One, we can have less pain, possibly, have pain maybe be dialed down a little bit, possibly, live a more healthy lifestyle because we're not riding the roller coaster. But maybe most importantly, we're working on retraining our brain to put out less pain signals
And not build
turn down
habits.
and not, like actually we're taking control instead of having the pain be always in charge. Is that?
That's absolutely right. Yes. And I understand how difficult it is, but even if we can practice that a little bit and have, where we don't go quite so high, but maybe we go up and down a little bit for the break, then a little bit, even this is better than this.
I guess a little bit more like the kiddie roller coaster, right?
That's
The
right.
little
That's right.
wave kind
Get
of
off
thing.
of that big roller coaster and get on something more manageable.
Get off of the big scary one and down to a
That's
small.
right.
Okay, so you're saying pacing, just changing your pacing pattern.
Mhm.
How much impact did that have on Debbie back in unmanaged chronic pain days?
I think it was one of the critical pieces for me to understand, especially because I had done it for so long, right? That I had taught my body and brain, this is how it works. And it
Pain
was
is how you control Debbie.
right. And last time we talked about the chronic pain cycle, and I mentioned that I laid down all the time. This was why. This was why I was laying down all the time, because I would push myself to the brink, and therefore I would be having to lay down for 2.5 to 3 days because I had pushed myself to that point. So it was very critical that once I started learning how to pace myself and take those breaks, force myself, because it's not easy, but force myself to take those breaks, then I had more manageable pain and I was not lying down all the time. So I'd say it was a very critical piece.
Gotcha. Gotcha. But it was still a piece. It was not the whole thing.
That's
It was
right.
not the silver bullet. It was not the magic pill, but it was a important, maybe a corner piece of the puzzle in helping you start to transition yourself so that you could start living in such a way that the pain was no longer in charge.
That's right. And next week, we're going to be talking even more about pieces of the puzzle because there's an important concept there, and that is it's very easy to be looking for that one thing. There's got to be somebody who's going to figure out my condition, give me a diagnosis, give me a treatment or a pill that's going to take it all away, and everything's going to be fine. So we're going to talk next week about, is it really that way most of the time? Or is it usually different pieces of the puzzle that work together to give us a more manageable life with pain? And as always, remember, your pain is real and there is hope. And my goal is for you to have your pain in the rear view.